your video. We also will be uploading and sharing this at a later date to our YouTube channel, as we do most of our talks as well. So my name is Sierra McKissick, and I'm the Public Programs Coordinator at the Hyde Park Art Center. We are really excited to be exhibiting this program and also exhibition from Cecil McDonald Jr. Cecil is a Chicago-based artist and educator who uses photography, video, and text to explore the intersections of masculinity, ancestry, and the artistic and intellectual pursuits of Black Americans. Cuts and Beats refers to the title of McDonald's most recent body of work, in which the artist subverts historical images like publicity stills from Black artists in the vaudeville and minstrel era by transforming them using techniques of photo collage, video, and performance combined with his own photographs. And Cecil today will be in conversation with Robert Hanserd, who is the Assistant Professor of African and Atlantic History at Columbia College. Excuse the sirens in the background. Let me start.
Chicago.
Yeah, so I'm like right on 18th and Ashland, so there's a lot of activity that happens over here. But I'll start over. Robert Hanserd is the Assistant Professor of African and Atlantic History at Columbia College in Chicago. West African culture and history at its circulation throughout the Atlantic world, West Africa, America, and Western Europe is a central academic focus of his. His research interests include West African Gold Coast and Bight of Benin, cosmologies, cultures, and histories, Afro-Atlantic inspirations to Maroons, free Blacks, and slave struggles for freedom and identity in the Caribbean and North America, and a range of topics related to African, Caribbean, and African American history and life. I also want to mention that Robert has a number of books as well, and I would love for him to talk about some of his work. He's here representing the Columbia Archive of Black Research. So we're really excited to talk about this and the intersections of that work. Cecil used a lot of this work in the exhibition and spent a lot of time within the archives. And that's where we're able to have this conversation between the two of them today to talk about some of the inspiration behind that and some of the deeper research behind the work. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Cecil and Robert, who will be in conversation today. You guys are in for a treat. Thank you so much for coming.
Hey guys.
Hello.
So we thought that we would start the conversation with a piece that's in the show. It's a wall rubbing that my daughter and I rubbed onto the wall, and an assemblage piece that's right next to it. We thought that'd be a great introduction to the talk. However, though, I did want to do a plug for the PBS Black Church documentary. It's awesome. It's inspirational. It's informative. It's it's like great TV. It's like drama.
Yeah, it's so much history. There's so much history in there. You know?
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, and I get ideas for new projects just from spending time with it. So it's great. Yes, you also check that out while still, you can do it on PBS. Look at it at your leisure, and it's just a wealth of information. Skip Gates is at his best, and everybody's in it too. So just the whole thing on preaching and styles in preaching, all of that is really deep. So I really enjoyed that, and I just think that stuff ties into what I'm working with here. So anyway, can we look at that one slide from the wall rubbing? I just want to introduce the audience to that one piece. Yeah, can you make it a little bit bigger? Yeah, so that's the opening, or that's a written piece that Charles Dickens, in his response to seeing a dancer by the name of Master Juba. And I just really like the text. I'm not going to read it, but you all can see it and look at it. Well, one, I just wanted to tell Sierra, I really like the way it came off, because it looks exactly how aesthetically I wanted it to appear on the wall. And it does it in person, but it does it in a photograph. So thank you. Kudos for you for that. But this is his description of seeing him in this nightclub. And now could you back out a little bit for me, please? I just want to show the piece to the left. Yeah. So that's a sculpture piece I created, as I call it, a consolation prize for Master Juba. I really like the idea of, and this is an example of me trying to connect with, speak to, work with histories and artists from other periods. And I like this idea of you couldn't get this complete humane treatment, but you could have, here's a consolation prize for you, for your brilliance and your blackness, the way you inherited the way you showed and shared your body with your country. I really like that. So this is kind of like a testament for you, or a prize for you. I tried not to make it sentimental, right? But I don't know. I just think it's a really interesting piece. So yeah, so these are two. This is what you encounter when you first enter the show. Is be the first thing you see. I'd like for you all to stop and read it. And I think it really does a good job of setting the stage, as it were, for the rest of the work in the show.
I mean, I definitely, Cecil, I'd agree with you on that. I like how, you know, even the choice of the medium, against the white, and the use of the charcoal to do it.
Mhm.
You know, it brings up all of the kinds of things that we sort of had talked around previously around a minstrelsy generally,
Mhm.
as something that, you know, it's blackface, and it has that racialized feature, but it's so easy to begin to unpack it, and you begin to see all these other kinds of things that are at work behind. I mean, I like to see it in the sense of the mask, because then you can link it to the sort of invisibleness of Ralph Ellison and other people's critique of
Mhm.
blackness in that sense, because then you get it to the end, you know, what could it represent then in that sense, right? Beyond the fact that it becomes one of the most popular forms of entertainment,
Right.
obviously, you got it as something that,
Needed at the time.
yes,
Mhm.
yes. And you got it that represents something as silence, as even for me, like there's some aspect of Gnostic power, because there's a mask here at work, and it's reflecting on a range of things: urban culture, class, ethnicity, social political commentary, sexuality and gender. There's the range of sort of theoretical things, and sure, there, you know, we can get into some of the context of the era and the real sort of nuts and bolts of the race and politics of the era. But I mean, what I like about what this does is it invites you to think about all of those things in the context of this exhibit. So
I'm not sure. What other slide do we have up? We have. I want to see. Okay, yeah. Um, so I thought I could also share with you all ideas and the actual documents themselves. So you know you'll come to the show and you'll see the complete finished renderings. But I thought it'd be good for you to see what was underneath. And much research, as you know, you've done this in the past too. You research a project, you found out a lot of interesting things, but everything does not make it to its final form. And so I will come across documents like this. Uh, and this one is with George Walker and his wife at the time, Ada Overton Walker. I love this, like the real cakewalk by Real Coons. So there was like language that was piercing, and that's a good word, piercing.
mhm.
And then I realized, oh, this is what they would use. This is like a calling card, basically, but a publicity as well. You would hand this out to music producers, theater producers. You might hand it out to someone that you want to dance to bring and join your dance troupe, travel with you. Um, and so there's also this idea of claiming blackness, i.e., because at the time, white men are pretending and painting their faces to dance for audiences, right? And these enterprising artists say, well, no, it's like today if you say I'm a real nigga, right? Or I'm a real person, I'm the real thing. And I just like this idea. And I saw this, I was like really shocked by it. I was like, well, what, first off, when you see text and image, you always want to know, are they the same people who are creating it? But they come from two different places, right? So this idea of like, well, who wrote that? Did they write this? And through my research, I found, oh, this is how they build themselves to the American, North American audience and abroad as well, right? And I said, oh, okay, so the language has changed, but the way Black people um, present themselves to America, particularly through the entertainment, art making, performance art, this idea of you're going to get something that's has an essence to it. And you could get dangerous, and it could be, you could go into, this is too much about essentialism, right? This idea of this is who they are. But I like this idea. So seeing images like this, can you go to the next one? There's some here. So this is how they are off stage as they kind of move through America, business, creating the business of performing. They are at the time, so this is Burt Williams on the left, George Walker on the right. They form this really great partnership, and they just become the main act, the main artist of their period. And so seeing images like this, and then I'll go to the next one. I'm not sure what's the next image. Go to the next one. Next one. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. Go back. This is so weird not being able to control my own slides. Just want you to know that. We can go back to the two up when they were.
Yeah, just let me know if there's a specific image that you want me to go to. I can fast forward to that part. Let's see.
Yeah, yeah. And so for me, the photographs and the images that I ended up using, there were two things that were happening. One, in one way, the imagery would be so disturbing that it made me sit with it a long time, right? And so it kind of spurred me. I had to figure out a way to get in and use art making as a way to respond. And then the other image would just be a beautiful image that I said, oh, it'd be great to intersect or somehow combine my imagery with these images and create this new thing, this third thing, like a mix, right? And so though most of the time the images kind of served or went into those two pockets of, I guess, thinking or creativity, right? And it's how I use the imagery as they came to me. Can you pull up the one where there's an actual sheet cover music with color on it, or color in it? And I'm not a good, there you go. Also see, I'm not a good delegator. I have to do everything myself. And so you would see, yeah, this one right here. So this is them on the cover of something that needs to be sold to America, right? More specifically, probably East Coast people who are or who have access to pianos, who play sheet music. This could also be a bill for a stage production, right? So I like seeing this image next to the one I just showed you. And I was trying to figure out where could I form my relationship? Where can I insert my thinking, my sensibilities? How can I bring these two worlds together? Um, yes, I just really want to emphasize it's also that as a image maker, you are still looking for something that speaks to you in an aesthetic style. Like I really like the text on this, the fonts on this poster. I was like, oh, I really like that. How can I still use that, even though it's spelling something so blatantly wrong and backwards? So I'm having this really interesting love-hate relationship with the information and with um, the image and the aesthetic of it, right? But it was really a good way to spur me and to really get me thinking, which led to all the political things that are happening at that time, right?
Something like this, huh?
Right.
This gets into the politics, I think, for sure, right,
Mhm.
of the era. This was my choice, but actually, I'd like to go to the other one there first, the Dancing for Eels first, if that's possible.
Yeah.
'Cause this one's an interesting one because it just captures time and place, and there's a lot being sort of communicated in the image. And this is at a period where you have these aren't sort of people in blackface in 1820. They're just men sort of being treated and represented in folk art, right? And so maybe more about not so much the producers of the work themselves, but maybe the sort of historical and cultural context of the work.
Yeah.
So something like Dancing for Eels in 1820 lets us know early on there are things going on. There's a dynamic about how identities are going to be depicted, right? And ultimately, minstrelsy will take the popular form for a range of reasons, in addition to the way that it reinforce the sort of social Darwinist and racialized ideologies of the era, for sure. But you get just sort of other thing when you see these early sort of things. It reminds us there's some tension going on. And that folks are sort of engaged in this process. I always think about too. There's a theater there's a theater producer at the time. His name is William Henry Brown, and he happens to be from St. Vincent, and he comes to New York to put on a show at a place called the African Grove Theater in 1820, and this show is called King Shotaway. And then that depiction, you have an African American tell the story of the sort of the emergence of the Garifuna people, if you've ever heard of them. And that's a nice plug for the CBMR because they have a nice resource on the Garifuna if anybody wants to look. But they're half, they're of African and Native American connection, right? And it's sort of very interesting. But he is William Wells Brown is present in St. Vincent at the time that this rebellion against the French takes place, by this mixed group of Africans and Native Americans fighting to control their destiny, their land, their existence, essentially against the French. So it's a real story. And Williams Wells Brown is right in the midst of it, right? So you have a real rebellion there. And then on the other side, 1820, same date in New York at the Park Theater, you have a performer, the performance of a play called Three Finger Jack, right? And it's about a rebellion in Jamaica that ultimately ends in this famous character. They sever his hand. They call him Three Finger Jack, right? But again, a real historical event, maybe less impactful. But again, but in its depiction in this New York performance, it's very much pantomime. It's very much these sort of beginnings of these characterizations as Black people, as these sort of, these problematic figures. Right. And so the two of them are sort of teasing it out. And the backdrop to that is the question of the rights of free Blacks to gain the right to vote in 1821. The backdrop to that is the abolition of slavery by the state of New York in 1827. So all that's going on, and that's very early. That's decades, prior to the Civil War, where these ideations of what Black representation looks like in performance spaces are beginning to take shape. And so for me, as I looked at and thought about some of the things you created, Cecil, this is sort of where my mind went, was to these sort of origin questions. There's a whole, we could segue into some of the African things from that,
So, well, before we do that, what about that? We were talking about reconstruction.
Mm-hmm.
If we move forward a bit, and thinking about
you could put that other image up there too. It might, because that was a reconstruction image, actually. If this one, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Shall I explain what's going? And you know what made me think about, again? It was thinking about what we've been looking at, right? You think about minstrelsy and the way it's a politicizing thing that's going on. It's a politicizing, representation that ultimately takes on some features of being sort of exploited, commoditized, right? It's a characterization, but it's also some satire and other things going on. So here's Thomas Nast's cover of April 1st, 1877. And what he's doing there is making fun of the Democrats, and so you have the donkey who Nast essentially calls the ass because they have given away the presidency to the Republicans in a backdoor deal to allow Rutherford B. Hayes to be the president. It's called the Great Compromise. And what's so problematic about it in the context of Reconstruction is that that's essentially the beginning of the Nader period. That's the beginning of the retraction on the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. So it's just funny in the wider space, someone is still making fun of the fact that the Democrats got kind of, I mean, where are they in this, you know? Those are the kinds of things I think when you think about the contemporary period that come to mind, you know, even you know, Frederick Douglass's dedication of the monuments, the Emancipation Monument versus maybe more positive depictions, John Quincy Adams, the Freedmen, or these other sort of depictions. Those things are all sort of interactive and sort of making sense of this, I think for me.
Right. Well, you know, it's I'm really enjoying this journal of civilization on here. Like,
yes, sir.
it's like it's really like they don't understand even the thing that they propose to do, be representatives of a civilized nation, right? But at the same time, the imagery always betrays your true self, right? Or your true thinking.
Yes.
And I think that's what kept coming back to me was how could I intercept, right, in a revisionist way, right? How can I intercept and deploy something that I made in a loving fashion into this void, this to me, which needs to be voided, right? I was going to say into this void, but it's not. It's something there, but it needs to be voided out. And so that just drove me. And the more images I saw, right, and then being in that space that Samuel, why is the name? Samuel who created the center, the Black Music Research Center. Samuel.
The name of the creator. That's bad. Talking about how important the Center for Black Music Research is, and now what is that name?
Well, at least I can say I'm on a first name basis. Samuel.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? I was like, I'm in this space that's devoted to this great, you know, culturally significant thing. And I was just, oh wow, this is really spurring me. It was such a and the weird thing is just from an artist's perspective, that was like I think 2013. And it's just how long it took to like come to some type of fruition, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. I was thinking about, do you think an image like this, or go back to the Dancing for Ills picture. So is a picture, you know, I do a lot of teaching artist work in high schools and grammar schools, in addition to my work on the campus. And we both are Columbia College faculty members. Just so you know. Like, what do you think about showing images like this, right? Because in our context, we're here to have Samuel, thank you, Samuel Floyd Jr. That's when you got good people on the call. They be looking out.
Good. All you guys come to the Center for Black Music Research too, please. And look more. There's tons more.
He wrote the Bible on Black music, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what do you think about, because that was kind of affecting me too. So when Darcel from the Tribune, who interviewed me last Friday, she asked about the imagery and what did I want to happen when people kind of came to it. And I was like really putting forth the fact that I wanted it to be like a celebratory type of thing. Like, but looking at an image like this, or the one I show, is nothing celebratory about those, right? And images are really strong. Aesthetics are strong.
Yeah.
So the question is, what are your thoughts around using the images to educate? Yeah, you know, it's always educate, but at some point, do you think it's detrimental to a psyche to constantly be exposed to images like this and the ones that we, you know, just showed and what we're dealing with?
That's a great question. I mean, but I guess I don't agree that this image, I don't necessarily agree that this image is similar to some of the other I put a few more on the slide roll there that are maybe more negative sort of depictions in blackface. And then like, I mean, like one of the images I found in that collection was as late as like 1971, people were at the Rotary Club putting on blackface, like hanging out. Like, hey, what are we doing this week? Oh, we all gonna do blackface at the Rotary Club. 1970s, right? I mean, you would think by now, you know, these things may have progressed some, obviously not, you know, but I mean, if I think about that image, maybe of dancing with eels, dancing for eels, and I compare it to maybe something more like, you know, the whole number 12 there, if you can get on that one, or that's one, or number 3, if you can get on that one, right? I mean, this sort of is much more suggestive of something that's a bit more problematic for me. I mean, in this image, maybe, right? And it is all certainly at the eye of the beholder. And in this one, just not even so much maybe as history, but just as a snapshot of, damn, it's 19. You're still doing. I mean, you're still doing this. You know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not that surprised, I guess. But if I think about those kinds of things compared to maybe dancing with eels, or maybe another image in this whole collection. In the performance space, I believe he's doing something from Shakespeare, and it's just a nice. There you go, right? Number 2, top number 2. There you go. And again, it's just a nice depiction. I mean, it's less characterized, right? And like for me, like if I and part of it comes from sort of inviting someone to look at something like dancing with eels from a range of different lenses, to ask yourself what's going on. You got to get at 1820 first and know that the issue of slavery and abolition is new and people are still wrestling it out. So there's a little bit of tension in the air first. So in the context of that tension, the fact that you would have these folks as Black people, not as slaves, they don't show them bound. They don't show them in captive spaces. They show them sort of, they're dancing out. And something also being suggested to me, you know, even on maybe there's a class thing that's going on. You know, let me just say one more thing, and I gotta give it back to you. But let me say one more thing though too, because given this kind of thing, right, and given these negative depictions of folks, I think the need is to sort of come to better ways of unpacking these things. Part of the unpacking process has to be the reality of this is a racialized, negative, problematic depiction of Black people. Anybody who comes in the door needs to be in that space. But you got to be able to progress forward from that, right? So maybe like a piece like that invites you not just, I mean, you have to get past the aspect of this. You have to begin to see minstrelsy for, you know, also as a negative reminder of the Black notion of inferiority, the myth of inferiority that's been perpetuated, but also on the same side to a dynamic of American music, whether we like it or not, you know. So I don't know.
Can you go back to that grouping that you had up? Oh, I see one of the pieces that I use in the show.
Oh, that blues, yeah. Yeah, I really like that. And you know, it kind of said that I think it was the other one, wasn't it?
Yeah, go back.
Yeah, it was the other one, right next to it.
Down.
Yeah,
Banana Land, right there. Yeah. To your right. Nope.
But you know, it's funny because you look at all these images and it's kind of strange that Ho would have all this stuff in his collection. Robin, I'm sorry, Ho would have all this stuff in his collection. You know, that's
so good. Yeah, I like this. So, what's the draw? What's the because I think minstrel is really complicated.
Very much.
Right? It's so complicated, and I can see why. I mean, because you think about a recent example was, remember when Ben Vereen did the his Mr. Bojangles, was it Mr. Bojangles?
Louis Armstrong. I was just, are you talking about that? I was just on. He was playing Louis Armstrong. Is that the one?
No, I think it's Mr. I think it's Sandman. I can't remember which one it was. but he does it in two parts. The first part, he comes out and does just the regular dance. The next time he comes out, he does it in blackface. And then he wiping his face off the entire time. And this is this is Reagan, and you
Yeah.
know, it's like a big gala. Um, but it was, and I said to myself, oh, he's doing exactly what I'm doing. He was trying to show an artist from a period and how that artist worked.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
But it's rumored that Ben Vereen pretty much lost his career, died because of that depiction, and how even his own people were like, "What the hell are you doing?" Right? And I just thought that was, I don't know. So you know, you have your initial reactions to things, and then you have your later thoughtful, more nuanced reactions. Then you go back to these more electric. You know, you kind of bounce back and forth, right? And a part of it is you just can't understand the period. Yes, we can study it, right? But the period is beyond me in some ways, right? I wouldn't have any sense as to what that period was like and what you had to go through and what would compel you to put burnt cork on your face. What will compel you to do that? I just think that's fascinating, right? Um, I don't know. So I thought about the images. Maybe I should have adjusted that question to showing them to children, because I do think at some point that when is knowing something detrimental, and when is knowing something, you know, helpful and beneficial to you. And so I did think about those images a lot. And then you're right. Then all of a sudden, in the current condition, your contemporary time, you are looking at everything in through a very different lens, right?
Yes.
I don't know. So
very well said. I mean, interesting, very much. I think that's a great connection with the Ben Vereen piece. That's a
right,
nice connection. I mean, you think about it, he was really doing something there. He was conveying something, just as you're describing. I mean, raising the question, and I think that's again what I appreciate so much from what you're doing with the collection is, and it's kind of got me in that space of saying, you know, this isn't an open shut. It is kind of in a
right,
sense. It's racial. It's as you described, very real, open shut. Did you put black cork on your face? You did this. You know, that's the end of it, right? Black and white people, and white people put, you know, I mean, black people put white on their face. You know, but we don't talk too much about that one. But they're the right questions, and no, they're I mean, you know, and even like I love to read. I was reading Du Bois again and some of the other stuff of the era, but books aren't going to get you halfway there. Books, archival evidence, only halfway there. You're never going to get into the tangible reality of those folks' experience. You know, I mean, even I don't even know if that's the right way to say it. You know.
right. And then so consequently, your judgment has to be reserved and tempered.
Yes, sir.
Right. I just think that, yeah, that's I don't know, where do we go from there?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, but yeah, so I think I also want to add about the Ben Vereen piece is CBS or whoever the broadcaster was, they only decided to broadcast one part of the show. And of course, as an artist, he created the piece so it should go from the beginning to the end. But they chopped it in, I'm sorry, I can't tell you if it was the blackface that was shown, and it probably was, because then they understood that's the network, that's their intrusion into the piece, right? The ultimate power. This is how we're going to show this. And so consequently, we didn't even see his whole work. And so he got judged for the part that in isolation or out of context doesn't make sense.
At all. Right.
Doesn't make sense, right?
I mean, and that's so reflective, even in a contemporary time of the still remaining problems of how we make sense of sort of art, you know, and the African American aesthetic. You know, people have always commented on the problem of the category, and a desire for whatever reason to affix work into categories, and how sort of problematic that that can be to on what you see and how you sort of can unpack it. And sometimes we do, that will streamline the way someone can sort of get into the space to really investigate and understand. Or at least arrive at some sense of a perception for themselves. So
Can you tell us what kinds of people are coming to the collection? Who's coming to see and like unearth things and go through things?
Thank you for asking that question too, because I think the Center for Black Music Research is so important. There's so many different things there, and I would encourage people to go and check it out. A lot of different artists. We got some fellows in residence. A good colleague of mine, Rami Gabriel, just did a piece where he was studying sort of collecting the sounds, and he made some work with that. It's just great to see researchers coming in there and gathering material for their own kinds of production, be it a book or maybe publication or performance or and all these different things. I think that's the large draw. And then I always say forced, but we can't do it now, unfortunately. But prior to the pandemic, my students, I made them go. It was a key assignment in every one of my classes.
When all else fails, like make you do it.
Make you go because it's so important. And I love that center. And it got, and you as you were describing, that whole collection is so important. And that's why, I'm going through it. I'm gonna finish going through the entire thing through the course of the semester, and then try to maybe work out something's gonna come from that. I don't know what that will be.
Right. See,
so much
the beauty of an archive.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You just go through it and something starts to speak to you.
Yeah.
Right. Or the next thing you know, you got a short story, you got a book of poems, or you got an exhibition, right?
That's
or your next scholarly book, right? It's or something I can share with my students, right? It's all of that.
All of that. Yeah, all of that. Yeah. Because like you could see, like, if there was one thing I would end on, it would be that he has Paul Laurence Dunbar's Lyrics of Love and Laughter. Robin Ho has that right alongside all these other things in his collection. That just speaks volumes to me about why he collected what he did.
Right.
And then I was studying, like, who is this guy? Why in the world did he collect this stuff? And I was looking at his background. He was, he studied. I had a CV here. Let me see. He studied Black music research, but he also studied like nuclear weapons, myth and reality, shamans and mystics, all this great stuff. And I'm like, wow, I just wonder what this guy was thinking about as he was collecting this stuff. So, something very interesting, to me.
Sierra, can you pull up some images from the exhibition? I don't know if that's easy for you to do or not. So I thought maybe we could talk about an image.
Yes, definitely can. I'll pull that up now.
Okay. So I've been thinking a lot about African mass lately, man.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm late to the party about that, but it's interesting. Can you give me the fourth one to the middle there? The fourth one top? Yeah. Oh, so this is all video, right? So these are your clips.
Okay.
Yes, I just wanted a close up of who I think are at the center of the movement, if you want to call it that. No, let's not call it that. This is the center of the culture at the time. And there's Burt Williams on your left, George Walker on the right. And this is they formed this really kind of fantastic partnership. And I don't know, I hate to keep emphasizing it, but I'm just still amazed at how successful they were able to be during a time that's so oppressive. But we were talking that we think there's a bounce coming out of Reconstruction. Not necessarily for them, or eventually it's for them, but it's their parents, right? That can be handed off to you in some way, shape, or form. Again, I'm not a scholar, it's not something I've studied, but it's something I've been thinking about, right? How else could that happen? Were they given privilege because of their talents? I don't know. Well, we do that today, right? We give celebrity or people who we feel are extraordinarily talented in some way, shape, or form extra things. extra privilege, extra opportunities, right? So I just wanted to show him, and I also would like, so on an image like this, I may keep the text as a connection to the era. I think that's really important. Everything from what something costs to these kind of pastoral kind of paintings on the back that are flat. And I just love intersecting and interjecting my images with that. Can we go to another screen right quick? I just want to see something else. Oh yeah, let's go to 2418.
Hey, yeah, I like this one. I really like this one.
Thank you. And I really want the audience to know too that it had to fit in a really elegant way. You know, so it wasn't like I'll go, oh, here's one, and you know, I'm putting these things together. It's looking at them for long periods of time and trying to figure out how would this have worked if I was there making the entire thing, right? Um, and I just love this one. This is the only one I kept blackface as part of the image. Uh, and then on top of that is the image from the McCormick plays, I think shot in 98, 99. The world's largest stepper set. So I just love bringing these periods together, right? And hopefully they become a seamless third theme. This really kind of powerful integration or intersection that creates this whole. What were some of your thoughts about what appealed to you? I'm sorry, I'm gonna start treating you like a student in a minute here, man.
That's all right, brother. That's all right. I'm a student. I am a student. Uh, I mean, just the way you kind of, I can see he's kind of reaching out to her. I mean, look at that, where that arm is. Look at where that eye is, and even like the way you shot. All the everything I'm thinking it should represent out of my head, and just sort of like almost just go blank and just sort of take it in.
Okay.
And like in this one, that's just I could just I mean, there's just a lot there to take it, and then let it alone. It's talking to me too, you know.
Right. Right.
So there's
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
bunch of stuff there, and I think that you are in dialogue. It's almost by the shaping and the choiceful pick, you know, choiceful pick. I don't know what the hell that is, but the way you really thought about what you were going to choose, man.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
That's that to me. It's a dialogue. The second that you did that and you pulled this piece out, they start talking to each other. So for me, I mean, and that's in a lot of the pieces I see, I see that it just comes out.
Thank you, man. You know, and now I'm thinking about this. It would have been good to have at some point in my studio, I had tables of these out in these little 8x10s all over the space. And I would just move pieces around trying to figure and find that perfect fit next time. And also, I think hopefully from a scholarly point of view, that they would, if you stand in front of this thing, you would just pull out your phone and say, well, let me find out who Alex Rogers is and who Bert Williams is, because clearly they're there for a reason, right? And then you would just learn so much just from your interaction in front of one piece, right? I had my daughter help me do research on a lot of these.
Yeah.
And she kept coming back telling me the most interesting things that I hadn't found, right? But I could tell it was profoundly affecting her to find out about these people as well, right? So I think, you know, I don't know, I'm an educator at heart too, so you want the work to do its thing on an aesthetic level, but you also want the audience to kind of come to it and they can take away something that's beneficial, because knowledge most of the time always is, right?
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm gonna start preaching in a
Yeah,
minute.
if you want, we can keep going. But I mean, I don't know if you want questions or.
Yeah,
Because
we've got about
I've been,
10 minutes left. If anybody who's here has any questions for either of these two, feel free to ask in the chat or out loud.
observations or things you're thinking about.
Hello, excuse me, just have my ears on, so um, talking voice got to get there. Avante Love here, student of Robert Hanserd currently. Very enjoyed this entire event, um, and I just wanted to know, where would I be able to, if I am able to right now, given the pandemic and the circumstances, where would I be able to access the Center of Black Music Research?
At Columbia College Chicago, why, don't worry, it's coming soon to a theater near you.
Okay, beautiful.
In our Intro to Black World course, don't you worry.
I guess let me just sit down.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, since you asked.
Yeah.
Another publication I'm working on is called 500 African Narratives, and it's all of these published accounts of African experiences, of Africans, their experience in Africa, and then them coming to America, right? So for each, we pulled out a set of them, maybe 100 of them that I think are the most compelling stories, and I'm gonna divide them up with the class, and then based on location, you guys got to find a connection to music, you got to find cultural connections, and do like a bit of a synopsis around disciplines. But one key feature of that is going to be the CBMI. So get ready. So
I'll be there, and I'll be there. But thank y'all again for this. I really am, like, feeling provoked to um, develop a deeper relationship with um, just music for historically for Black people, and like what that, how I want to develop my own personal connection with that, because I feel like the knowledge is beautiful, and it's just something that we all could use. Music is something that speaks to us all on just different frequencies, and contextually speaking, having that a part of my understanding would just be really special to me. So I just saying that I really appreciated this. So thank y'all again.
You're welcome. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. That's a very nice comment.
Awesome. Any other questions from any folks out there?
Your thoughts? What are you guys out there thinking about?
Jump right in. Don't hold back at all.
Do you have any things that you want people to look out for, Cecil, when they're coming to view the exhibition? Things that you want people to be thinking about,
Yeah.
analyzing?
Yeah, so the titles are really important. I'll say that. Every title is really thought about. Hopefully it's not overwrought. But they really mean something, and they speak to either contemporary Black culture. Amy Mooney wants to know, is there a playlist? No, there's not. That's a good idea, though.
Yeah, I think come to the Center for Black Music Research.
That'd be good. Yeah, I have to do that.
There's a ton of there's a ton of music there. They have a lot.
So I'm also thinking about so Thailand is really important, and what they reference both in the contemporary culture and then from the culture in which the posters and sheet music were produced. Think about the intersection of the cut. So they still are aesthetic objects, right? Yes, they are heavy with political message and political baggage at times, but they are still first and foremost aestheticized objects. And I think I would like for you all to appreciate them as that as well. The way they're produced and framed, and they're not even framed, they just kind of float. So all that's done on purpose. I want you to, there's a sense that the show and the people are moving. I like that. So a sense of movement is in the room. Yeah, so don't forget to appreciate, and we often do this when it comes to Black artists, is to only or spend way too much time on political messages. Though they're there, I think we need to spend as much time on what was made. What is the object? How was the object created? So I would like that to still be part of the conversation, because I'm still in conversation with the Russian artists who were using montage to write political messages against Hitler, right? So there was an aesthetic to that, right? Surrealism. Um, so I think within the work, there is still the history of art is in there as well. Yes, I definitely want that to be part of the conversation, or the thing you could think about as you go through the work.
Yeah, Eva wants us to show a piece that incorporates sheet music. And I think I do have some footage of that in the files. I'll pull that up now.
Show the other one. I think that's a better version of that one. Sierra, can you show the one where the image is number, where is it? Up, 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 down, down, down. Yeah, right there, right next to minstrel. Yeah. No, that's not the one. Sorry. Oh yeah, that's the one too. So then that one, there's some more of a transparent relationship, right? Where I'm really trying to really work this metaphor back and forth between time periods. I really like this picture a lot.
Cool.
So the companion to this one is across the room. And then too, the idea of scale in these are important. Some are very large, some are just 16 by 20 in groupings. So that's a good installation image. Well, I mean, I got to tell you, it's really good to show it like this and share it. You
Yeah.
spend so much time with these things on your own. And it's like, oh, now you're sharing it with an audience. It's a very different feeling. I really wrestled with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like how so? If you don't mind me asking, I mean,
No, because all the stuff that I was, for what we just mentioned about Ben Vereen, the whole thing, man. I was like, damn, do I really want to do this?
it's, yeah, that's because it's talking. It's talking. So that's why I'm asking. I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, but the tension is there. It's
right.
It's talking. Exactly. I mean, yes, Ben Vereen. I mean, right.
And then I think I titled this one "Man the Minstrel."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is the idea of controlling it in a way, but and then understanding how these artists would take that minstrel thing and kind of flip it inside out. So, and even like the way and it's so funny because this is from another picture where I was in my studio doing these drawings that I do with my feet, and I cut it out of another image, right? But the way when I laid it down, it's like, oh, our bodies are and our leg movements is really strange here. So I had to keep playing with it till I wanted to obscure his face. So my elbow, I kept rocking it back and forth till I got to the point where I erased him in some way.
Yes. Yes.
So that's what I was trying. Yeah, this is the only one I was just kept playing, going back and forth with this one. Like, I don't know.
But even that sort of that movement there,
Yeah,
I mean, there too.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. I mean, that's a nice one.
Thank you for bringing that one up. I forgot about. I wanted to mention that. And once you all know too, I don't use share that I'm that. This Zoom is problematic, man. You forget you're in a room full of a lot of people. You think you're sitting here by yourself.
Like you're having a serious conversation. Yes, sir. No, very true. That's very true. And I mean, my students will. There, you see him. He's laughing because Avante's laughing because they know that I've had some tendencies, some issues in the class with technology.
Oh, okay, right.
So they know. I appreciate you all and your patience as well.
So one more question from Allison about the sound piece. I believe I have a video of that. Let's see.
Stranger is a stranger no longer. The pounding rhythms strike the outside of his body, and the beating tempo of his own heart within him matches the musical accents of the drums. And this is what happens to everyone.
Yeah, this is one where it's not a montage or a collage. It's a picture it's a standalone image. There are 4 images in the show that are standalone images. But I like the idea, the sound that you heard was from a travel log. So it's like a colonial period piece where you would go and you would observe Africans. And then you would write these travel logs and you would talk about them and you would describe what the natives were doing. And I just really, in a lot of my music research, you come across from just so many Black people were not literate or were not writers. All of the descriptions about Black dance early on are from the position of a white man, which is problematic. But they, in some level, well, the Dickens one. That's why I opened up with that one, because he can write about what he sees, right? So anyway, in my research, I said, oh wow, there are a lot of these. There are so many of these like travel logs where white people are traveling, going through places, and they're doing these they're recording information, they are writing about it, and on some level, he was strangely, oddly describing what was happening, what I thought was happening in the photograph. So it's this weird space of it comes through the man is there recording because he's all wrong, right? He's a colonist. It's just a problem why he's there. But I end up using this thing decades later, and it's just interesting to me. So again, I haven't settled on whether it's something I should have done, right? Because do you somehow give it power? But in it, he talks about watching the drummers and the dancers, and with the beat of the drum and the heightening of the pace, their hearts start to beat as one, which is beautiful, right? And I've been in enough spaces where I know that happens. How did he know that happened if he didn't experience this himself, right? I mean, so I think it's short, it's good. I think it's like maybe 2 minutes. And it's a good piece. It's very meditative too. You stand in front of the work and just listen to it, right? I think it's like from the 50s or 60s, not that long ago, right? But I think it's a good piece. So, what am I going to say? It's not a good piece? Yeah, it's a good piece. You should go and you should sit in front of it and sit there.
So,
I bring it up, Cecil, because I think it's really interesting. I put this in the notes, how it's bookending the show with the Charles Dickens quote. It's like you've got these white voices at the beginning and the end, contextualizing what you've identified as like true moments of expression in Black culture that have continued this trajectory, and you're bringing it back to own it and to celebrate that.
Yeah, you know what? That can only happen when you have an exhibition. because that's not how I thought about those things working. Right? Alex, you there?
Yeah, I didn't even really realize it until you're talking about it right now. And I'm looking at the show this way in a video and thinking through the sequence.
Yeah, and you're right. It does that. It does that absolutely. And I
And they're
just,
both really important pieces to me to this show. So it's making me think about it differently after this talk.
why we do it, right?
That's right. These aha moments are all worth it.
And I like it when it happens publicly too.
Definitely.
All right. Well, we are coming to a close. If you don't mind, we have one more question from Avante. Avante, would you like to ask your question?
Oh yeah, thank you. Cecil, and I hope I'm saying your name right. I know it's come up, but just making sure. How you? I know much of your works and your research, like address the conversation of Black masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to know how you feel like this exhibition right here, focuses on that, or like how does it speak to that?
Oh wow, yeah. Well, I think thinking about Black men, though I do celebrate on some level, I think the women who are part of this as well. But such a good question.
Mm,
I guess it's probably most in regards to um, these men were really dedicated to their lives as artists, but then they had this fortitude to bring so many other artists along with them, right? So it's not the typical man as capitalist who wants to succeed at all costs.
mm-hmm.
It's more like man as a socialist, man who understands that through his expression, right, uh, he can affect change and bring the people who are around him, and who he sees as talented and deserving, right? Like a really wonderful kind of uplifting, right? And so I don't know. I think it's interesting, and then also this idea of what men will do in order to be an artist.
Yeah.
Right? I'm thinking about artists in particular now, right? Uh, what they will endure, particularly from this period. It opens up a lot of ideas about what it means to be a masculine,
Yeah.
right? And because I'm sure there's a lot of backlash of the period of that being not the most masculine work to get into, and on stage singing in makeup, right? Probably not. And so, um, and I don't know enough research. Well, in my research, I have not come across them with regards to their identities, however they ID themselves, right? But I think that could be interesting kind of discussion and research as well. I think there's so much room and space for this period of artists, both through films, documentaries, books, art exhibits, everything, because they are extraordinary people because of the times that they endured. I got away from your masculinity question. I think I covered it in the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for making me think about that. I hadn't, you put these things in your statements about who you are and what you think, and then you forget that from time to time you have to talk about them out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great, just food for thought. Walking away from even just thinking on your own. How it just shapes different perspectives and narratives. And,
Yeah, if I could add something, I would just say, there, as Cecil mentioned, it can be depicted in so many ways, and you see these folks, and that's what I think is interesting about the minstrelsy. If you can start to see these people talking around issues like gender and sexuality and masculinity, that's coming out, and even the sort of notion of Black maleness is being put to the test in the context of performance and theater. Because what is abolition and the right to live free about? What is immigration and other kinds of things that come out in this same era that, you know, we're talking about. So the question is there, and there's just so many and so much in terms of what you do. And you're right, Black womanhood is essential there in the context of that.
Well, thank you, Avanti, for the question. And thank you, Robert and Cecil, for being in conversation tonight. Really grateful to have you all offer this insight on this exhibition. We're really excited. As I stated before in the chat earlier, the exhibition will be up through June 12th, so plenty of time to come and check it out. And also, we are open for our exhibitions viewing by appointment, and we're open Monday through Friday. There are specific hours for people who are immunocompromised or older adults as well. So there are different versions depending upon your level of safety as well. And we do have hours on Saturday as well. So you can find that information on our website, hydeparkart.org. It's right on the homepage. You can pre-register to come check out this exhibition along with the other great exhibitions that we have. And please do check out the Center for Black Music Research as well. I'm not sure what the hours or how things are over there with COVID, Robert, but if you want to add anything about how people can support that archive, that would be great.
I think the best way is just to certainly just get involved. I can put a link in the chat here right now for everyone that you could just definitely just, if you ever want to go on the page and check out what's there, would encourage you to do that, make a visit. The main archivist there, Heidi Marshall, she's a great resource to help you get connected to the sort of materials that you may be interested in. So I would just encourage you to visit, participate, and engage with the center because there's a range of resources accessible.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. Thank you all so much. We're going to close out this talk for the evening. Thank you all for joining us. Hope to see you all soon at the Art Center. And again, make sure you check out Cecil's show or read the article in the Tribune as well. And make sure that you support the Center for Black Music Research and all of the great work that Robert and Heidi are doing over there as well. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Robert. Thank you so much, Sierra. Great job. Thank you.
Have a great one, y'all.
Yeah.
We gotta get together, man, when we can get in place.
Especially after the pandemic and that. We reach out, man. I'd like to talk to you on some art stuff too, bro.
Yeah, I think we can do